How to backpack around the world for first timers. What up, YouTube? It's your boy Jermaine back with another video. This video, I want to talk about how to backpack around the world. Now, this is a question I've received in other videos. Someone was like, yo, just do a video like A through Z. So this video might be long. I'm gonna go over a lot of things about backpacking around the world. This is gonna be for first timers. This video is also gonna be geared to my American subscribers. I think as of now, like, my American subscribers represent maybe 35% of my channel views right now. So it's kind of small versus like other countries around the world, but this video is for you Americans because I really want to see y'all folks travel more because yeah, we need to travel more from the US. Now, as of the making of this video, I'm in Durban, South Africa, and I'm just looking out the window right now. Yo, it is just amazing out here. Yesterday when I arrived, I was just blown away. And this is something that I want more people to talk about. So let's just jump right into this. So backpacking. First off, if you live in the US and this is something that you want to do, first off, you just got to get a passport first. That's the first thing on the list. You got to get a passport. Once you get a passport, you got the documentation, and now you just got to book a flight. So how do you get a passport? It's very simple to get a passport. You go to the post office, you pay anywhere from, I think it's like roughly $150, but before you go to the post office, you need to go somewhere like Walgreens or CVS and get some passport size photos made. You want to take those with you to the post office. You want to take your birth certificate. You want to take a social security card. You want to take a couple of different forms of ID. You take that to the post office. You fill out this pretty simple form, actually. It's maybe like a page and a half. It's pretty much basic information, the same things that you would fill out going to the DMV or any other government office. They want to know who you are and make sure you're a citizen and all that. Then from there, you pay the fees, and they say it takes about 6 weeks to get your passport. Usually it can kind of be about 3 weeks. Once I got a passport in 2 weeks. So they say 6 weeks because things can happen, or maybe they have to glance over your records or your documents a little bit longer, but usually it doesn't take that long. Once you get the passport, now you are free to travel to roughly 150 countries in the world visa-free with an American passport. Now, as of the making of this video, I believe the Europeans say that there's 194 countries in the world, and Americans, we can go to maybe about 150 or 160 of those countries. So there are a handful of countries that we need visas to go to. I'm not going to read the whole list of every country that Americans need visas to go to, but I will name a couple countries that we definitely need visas to. Russia, China, Brazil, a lot of places in Central Africa, we need visas. And one reason why we need a visa for a lot of places in Africa is because they want to make sure that we have certain vaccinations before we enter the country. With a visa, they can also make money off of us, and they can also check and make sure oh yeah, you had this and you've had that and you've been from here. So that's kind of how the visas work in some countries. Other countries, the visas can kind of be like a money grab, sort of like how it is in Brazil. We make Brazilians apply for visas to go to the US. So in return, Brazil does the same thing to Americans. They make us apply for visas. This is one reason why I've never been to Brazil, because I actually have to go through all the extra work just to get a freaking visa to go to Brazil. And I mean, I do want to go to Brazil, but there's so many other countries in the world that I can enter without a visa. Getting a visa is not that big of a deal, but it is more steps in the game, okay? So if I want to get a Brazilian visa, I would have to go to a Brazilian embassy in the US, and I would also have to take some passport size photos. I would have to fill out a form. It's almost just like going to the post office and getting a freaking passport. That's kind of what it's like when you get a visa, especially when you go to the embassy. Now, different countries require different types of visas. The countries I just named, these are all countries that require you to go to an embassy before you arrive. So you can't just show up and get a visa. A country like Egypt, I remember just showing up and getting a visa on arrival. Now that visa cost about $15 back then. I think now the same visa is about $25. That's one way visas work. Now a country like Vietnam, for Americans, we need a visa to go to Vietnam. However, you don't have to go to the Vietnam embassy before you arrive. You just go online, you fill out a couple forms, You pay, I think, like $50, and then once you arrive to the airport, they put the visa in your passport once you get there. It can be very different for different countries. Australia is also a country that Americans, we need a visa for. So if you go to Australia, you definitely need a visa. Okay, so in this video, let's just use the example of, you're a first-time traveler and you are going to a visa-free country. So next, what you want to do, let's say you pick a random country, like you say, okay, I want to go to Thailand for the first time, or I want to go to France, because France was the first country I went to. Now, upon arrival to France, you don't need a visa. You don't really need to do anything. As of the making of this video, this is going to change in about 2 years for Americans. We will have to roughly go online and fill out this form and pay a fee before we can go to Europe. But as of the making of this video, we can go to Europe like visa-free. Myself, I live in the Bay Area, and for some reason, flights leaving the Bay Area going to Europe are like dirt cheap. Like I can find round trip flights for like $300 at sometimes, like round trip to Europe and back, like from Oakland to Barcelona, like check like Norwegian Airlines and WOW Airlines. But that's for people that live in the Bay Area. It's gonna be a little bit cheaper to leave the Bay and come back. But if you live in a place like in the middle of the U.S., like Memphis, Tennessee, which is my hometown, I was checking flights and I saw flights from Memphis going to London for like $1,000 round trip, and I was thinking, wow, that's a lot of money. Like that's a whole lot of money. But those flights are typically on like American Airlines, like Delta or United. And some of the budget flights that fly out of the Bay Area going to like places like Barcelona and Oslo and Copenhagen, these are budget airlines, and budget airlines charge a whole lot less. Of course, you have to pay extra for everything, like a seat, and extra for a meal, and extra to check a bag. But if you don't need to check a bag, you're saving money. If you don't want their food and you're okay with eating food in the airport, you're saving money. If you don't care about your seat on the airplane, you're saving money. Hint, hint, a lot of times when you take a budget airlines, if you show up to the check-in gate like 2 hours early, if you're one of the first to show up, when you're checking in, you can just ask them right there, hey, is there a window seat available? And if it's a window seat available, they'll usually give you a window seat. This may not work on United Airlines, by the way, but a lot of the European budget airlines, this does work. Like I use this one all the time when I don't pay for a seat before. I mean, if it's like a long international flight, sometimes I will just go ahead and like get a seat, so that way I know I'm in a window seat or I know I'm in an aisle seat. But a lot of times I just I'll just go up to the check-in gate, and I'm hoping that this is like an empty flight, and I could just pick a seat, and it usually happens. It usually works out. This year, I've taken a lot of empty flights. It's kind of amazing to see how many airplanes that are empty that I just happen to fly on. What about things to take on your trip, right? Me, I'm kind of extreme. Like I take a backpack that's 31 liters big. Most travelers take backpacks at least 60 liters. So my backpack is half the size of your traditional backpacker's backpack, right? And I kind of recommend that most people, like your first time traveling, go with something 60 liters. I don't recommend checking a bag. The reason why I say don't check a bag, because if you are flying from the US and you're going to London and you're only going to stay in London, okay, it's chill. Like you can check a bag if you want. But if you're going to London and then you're going to go from London to Paris, and then you're going to go to Paris to, this other place, and you're going to go from here to there, I would say just take one bag, or take two bags. Take a bag on the front, take a big bag on the back, and don't check a bag. Because throughout your trip, you're gonna have to walk with your bags. And if you have a big suitcase and there's steps, you're gonna have to walk with that suitcase up steps. If you're getting on a subway, you're gonna have to walk down the subway with this heavy suitcase. If you are, getting on a subway and you have one backpack on you and one backpack on the front, or if you just have one backpack on the back, it'll be so much easier just navigating through the city. It'll be easier getting out of taxis. It'll be easier getting off of trains. It'll just be easier moving around. Another benefit of traveling with one backpack, especially traveling with one small backpack like the way I do, is if I'm checking out of a hostel, a lot of times they will charge you, like if you check out at 10 a.m. and you have a flight leaving the city at 7, you check out at 10 and you want to store your bag there for a couple hours so you won't have to walk around with your bag on you. This, 2 huge bags. So a lot of places will charge you to check your bag. This in Europe is like a really big thing. In places like Africa and Asia, they don't charge as much. It's usually free to store your bag. But if you have a backpack that's small, you don't even have to store your bag. You can just take your bag with you. You can just go see things around the city, and when you're done, you can just go straight to the airport instead of going back to the hostel to pick your bag up. And that also works on the flip end. A lot of times I'll show up to a particular city and it's 9 a.m. in the morning. And it's 9 a.m. I can't check in to 3. Now I could go all the way to the hostel and drop the bag off and then keep exploring. But in my case, I'll just keep the bag with me because it's small, it's not heavy. It's really easy when you don't have a rolling bag and you just have just a backpack and you can just walk around and you can go to restaurants, take your backpack off, like chill, you don't have this big suitcase you're dragging around. Now you're flying, okay? You're at the airport, you're getting ready to go. So what happens when you leave the US, nothing big happens. Like it's just like taking a normal domestic flight. They look at your passport. They don't stamp your passport when you leave the U.S. You get on the plane. They check your passport. They do this thing called documents okay. And what that basically means is they're basically checking, like making sure like you don't need a visa going to that location. It's really, really simple. It's really easy. They put this like X on your ticket once you're clear. And then you go board the plane. You wake up. You're in Paris, right? So when you're in Paris, the plane lands. Hopefully you had a really good flight. Maybe you were able to get some sleep. Maybe you had decent food, but now you're in Paris, right? Plane just landed, and what do? You got to go through customs, right? So what is customs? Customs is basically like the people that check your passports. They're usually in these big boxes with all this glass behind them, and they usually have guns on them. I've never really figured out why customs agents have guns and they're also inside this glass box. And then there's all these bars on the customs gates. But in most places in the world, it's kind of like that. Like, it's kind of like, yo, why you look so gangster? I just got off an airplane. Like, I don't have a weapon, But anyway, you go through customs. Usually customs, for me, has been just really easy and relaxed. I can kind of talk about a few of my customs experiences. But usually it's relaxed. Like, you give them your passport. If you have a brand new passport, they just like look through, like check, and they just stamp your passport. Usually they don't ask a lot of questions, especially if you have like a new passport. It really depends on what country you're going to. Like traveling from the U.S. going anywhere in the EU. The EU is basically majority of Europe. They don't really ask pretty much any questions because the U.S. and the EU has a really good relationship. Okay, now if you're traveling from the EU coming to the U.S., it's a whole different thing. I actually feel sorry for a lot of Europeans coming to the U.S. because the customs in the U.S. treats foreigners like crap, like they do. But as an American going to other countries, a lot of places treat like us like really nice, and that's something I just wanted to throw out there. But let's talk about customs and some of the problems you can have in customs. When I first started to travel, I would always book trips, like a round trip ticket. So I would always have a flight going there and a flight leaving. Nowadays, I never do that. I always just book one-way flights. Now, as a first-time traveler, I recommend that you book a round-trip ticket just in case you have problems with customs, just in case you spend too much money, you don't want to get stranded there. So I recommend you do book a round-trip ticket. Also, it'll just give you more peace of mind, like that you have a flight leaving. Sometimes when you have a flight leaving, you just feel so much better about your trip because okay, I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to do this, so it works. Let's talk about some of the customs experience I've had at border patrols getting my passport stamped. Once traveling to Israel, it was pretty intense. I was questioned for maybe like 8 minutes or something. What are you doing here? Where are you staying? Do you have a return flight? They asked if I had a return flight, but they did not ask to see the return flight. I've noticed in customs lines, people will have their return flights like already printed out. I guess it really depends on just what country you're coming from. Israel did not ask to see a return flight. They did ask a lot of questions, a whole lot of questions, but that's just what the Israelis do. Like you go to Israel, just be prepared. They're going to ask a lot of questions. When you enter the country, they're going to ask even more questions when you exit the country. So that's just one thing to throw out there. Some countries are just like that. The EU, not the EU, but once I was my first time flying to the UK, Oh man, this guy just wanted to know like everything. Like he was a black guy, and you know, honestly, sometimes your own people will be the ones that will demand more information out of you just because they can relate with you more than they can relate with someone else. And I've noticed around the world, I've definitely had more problems with like if it being a black customs person versus it being a customs person of another race. So when I flew into London once, this guy was like everything was cool, you know, but he kept me there for like 15 minutes, and he just kept talking to me and like, what do you do back in the U.S.? I'm like, oh, I drive for Uber, and then he was like, what else do you do? And I'm like, I make YouTube videos, and like, like I showed him, and he was like sitting there like watching a freaking YouTube video of me, like as I'm trying to get my passport stamped, and like all these people are like behind, and they're like wondering like what's going on because I'm just standing there with like my computer out because he demanded to see my return flight. I didn't have it printed, so I had it on my computer, so I had to go to the computer, connect to the Wi-Fi. Like it was kind of a mess, you know. Like he was just doing this just because he could do it. Like I think he was just purposely just trying to like just hold me up, you know. Then he was like, so how much money do you make back home? Like how much do you pay in rent? Like it was just like kind of insane, right? I was just like, oh, welcome to the UK. Maybe I won't even like this freaking country, you know? Like, gosh, like first impressions is like this, you know? I think this was one of the hardest times I had in customs, but it wasn't like bad, but it was just like it was just kind of annoying, you know? Like you just want to know so much like stuff. Kind of felt that it was like a little bit beyond his job, but I don't know. Maybe he was just doing his job and it was just weird. But and then once I flew into Singapore, and man, I just, you know, walked up like it was all normal, and this guy was like, "So what are you doing in Singapore?" It's like, "Oh, well, I'm going to Bali in 2 days, but I just stopped here because I wanted to explore this beautiful country." And you know, this guy's like, "Go over there," and they like put me in this room, and I kind of start to freak out. And there's this other dude come, and he's just all like angry and pissed off, and what are you doing here? I'm just like, oh, I'm just here to like visit your country. First off, I will say that like people in Singapore are like not the friendliest people in the world. Like, but for sure they're not the friendliest people in the world because they're just throughout the country. I noticed stuff like that, and then you know they just want to see my return flight, and they ask me other questions like, what do you do in the U.S. and like why are you really here? And I said, look, man, I'm trying to go to 100 countries, and I just left Thailand, and I'm going down to Bali, and I found a cheap flight here. I really want to like experience your country, want to experience your culture, check out some of the food that you guys eat here. And then from there, he was just like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, here you go. Yeah. You're leaving in 2 days. That's kind of how it was. Okay, so now you're in Paris. You just got through customs and everything's cool. Like, everything's cool. These stories that I just told you, none of this happened to you. Basically, when you went through customs, it was some really nice, friendly, attractive girl in her 20s, and she just looked at you and she stamped your passport, and cool, you're all set, you're good to go. Being safe abroad, and is it safe for like women to travel? This is a question I've gotten a live stream. So is it safe for women to travel? Put it like this. I travel quite a bit, like quite a bit, and I noticed that I always see Caucasian women traveling all the time, like all the time. So if you're a black woman, I would assume that it would be just as safe for you, because I meet more people traveling alone than I usually meet people traveling in groups. I would rather travel alone than in a group because when you travel with groups, like for example, right now I'm staying at this place, this hostel, and I just been kind of hanging out by myself because there's just a lot of like little groups, little cliques, and when you're with your group of two or with your group of three, it's so easy just to stay with your group, you know. But when you're by yourself, when you're alone and you're traveling alone and you meet other people, it's really easy to meet people because you're traveling alone. And when you meet other people, you start to learn a lot. You start to learn where they're from, like what's it like where they're from. Like you start to learn culture differences. You just start to learn a lot when you're traveling alone and you meet other people. And is it safe? I would have to say it it is safe. Like it is safe. A lot of things happen in the U.S. Like once again, I'm directing this video to my American subscribers, but lots of things happen in the U.S. All the shootings. I mean, shootings are just common in the U.S. It's an American thing. Shootings can happen here, but a plane crash can happen anywhere too. Like things just happen, you know. And in the U.S., I think that there's this picture painted about traveling outside the U.S. how it's so bad, and in certain parts of the world, like Africa, is just you would just never want to go, you know, because it's so dangerous and everybody lives in mud huts. And why would you ever want to go? We live in America. It's the best country in the world. I have to say it's not the best country in the world. Oh my gosh, it's not. It's not. I can't tell you what is the best country, but I can't say the U.S. is best in the world because, guys, the U.S. is like, for real. It is slipping. It is on steep decline. And one thing that can really help out is if more people from the U.S. travel and see that, look, the rest of the world is not like what they say it is in the U.S. Like, the rest of the world is pretty dang fly, if you ask me. So now you're leaving the airport. Leaving the airport is just going to be it's going to be an adventure in whatever city you're in. In a lot of European cities, it's very expensive to take a taxi leaving the airport, going to a city center. Most European cities, there's usually a fast train and a cheap train to get to the airport. So if you're tight on cash and have plenty of time, or if you just don't mind taking a slower train just to save money because you're in a new place and you're not exactly in a hurry, you might want to take the slower train, because usually it could be the difference of like $5 versus $10, and then the time difference may be the fast train you get there in 30 minutes, the slow train you get there in 40 minutes. You know, like you're saving half of the money, and you get there like just a little bit after what you would normally get there. So that's one thing to point out. When you're in countries like African countries and stuff like that, usually there is no train or a bus going from the airport to the city center, but usually in a lot of African countries, like, taxis and Ubers are very, very cheap. So I think from Cape Town to Cape Town City Center, I took an Uber and it was about $15. I took a train from the city center of Oslo going to the Oslo airport, and it was $23. Now, that was a train versus taking an Uber. So in different places, it's going to be definitely, cheaper or more expensive. Really depends on the region of the world that you are traveling to. I'm just using Europe for just an example, because Europe is actually a pretty easy place for a first-time traveler to go to. Europe is not the easiest place for a first-time traveler to go to. Like, maybe the Caribbean would be a little bit easier and a little bit closer. But like, my first experience was Europe, so that's why I'm kind of like just saying Europe over and over. Now, where to stay? Now, you don't want to show up to, Paris, and you don't want to go through customs and then figure out where you want to stay. However, I've done this so many times where I just wake up, get on a plane, go to the next place, and I'm like, crap, I don't even have a hostel, or I don't even have a place to stay, There's a couple apps you can use. My favorite to use is hostelworld.com. There is Booking. Now, Booking.com is very, very, very popular. Almost all the travel vloggers use Booking. I like Booking, but at the same time, I just like the interface of hostelworld.com more. If you are, but there's definitely really good deals on Booking. I'm definitely not trying to push Booking down. Like, Booking is really good, but I'm just more of a fan of Hostelworld because of the whole backpacking culture, and like I said, I like the interface and I like their rating system, and I'm just more used to it. Maybe I'll use Booking more and more. I've actually used Booking just once on this trip. It was my first time using Booking, but I probably will use Booking more, because there is more of a benefit to using Booking than there is Hostelworld. Don't want to really get into it in this video, but it is better to use Booking. So maybe I should just say you guys use Booking, but I don't want to exactly say that because I don't really use Booking that much, because I use Hostelworld, but you guys can figure it out. Now, hostels are going to be very different. They're going to be very different. So I'm staying in this hostel right here, right now. And as you can see, this is a 4-bedroom dorm. This is my bed here, and there's all these beds here. Now, right now in Durban, South Africa, this is low season, so there's just not a lot of people staying here. And since there's not a lot of people staying here, I got this whole room to myself, and this room is what I think it's about $15 a night. Not bad, especially if you get the whole room to yourself. Now, things that I would recommend that you bring with you when you travel, especially staying in hostels, I would say bring a lock. Myself, I actually travel with 2 locks, but I would say just like bring a padlock. And I would also recommend to stay at hostels with lockers, okay? With lockers, because this way you can lock up your things, because lockers just give you just a just more peace in mind. I hate staying at places without lockers because I don't want to leave my backpack just out in a room and there's like 3 other people staying in the room. What if like I leave and someone else comes in the room and they leave the door open and someone takes like something out of my bag? So I would always recommend staying in a place with lockers, and you can find this out on Hostel World. Like you can look at the photos, you can also look at the amenities, and usually it says stuff like Wi-Fi, free breakfast, lockers. It's definitely one thing I would point out, like stay at a place with lockers. Don't leave your stuff laying around. I've stayed in hundreds of hostels now around the world, and knock on wood, I've actually haven't had anything stolen from a hostel. So I mean, most people that stay in hostels are pretty honest people, but that doesn't mean everyone that's staying in a hostel is honest. Things definitely could go down, and you just don't want to let your guard down. Like, just be smart about it. If you're in a place and you don't feel comfortable about it, maybe you should leave, you know? Like, I've definitely stayed in hostels, and I'm like, look, I'm not gonna stay here tonight because like I feel sketched out, or like it just something doesn't feel right. Just leave, you know. If you ever find yourself in that situation, don't stay in a situation that you don't like. So that's one thing I want to point out about hostels. And the cool thing about hostels is it's a great way to meet people. Hostels usually have events. Like this hostel had a bar crawl last night. I missed out on the bar crawl because I was asleep at like 7 p.m. or something like that. I slept like a baby. I slept like 12 hours. It was incredible. Sometimes you need a lot of sleep like that. So that's one thing to point out. Hostels have all sorts of events. This one has like a cooking, they do different cooking events. So like on Tuesday they cook this, on Thursday they barbecue, or they braai. That's what you call barbecue in this region of the world. You call it braai. So hostels have great events. Now you can stay at hotels too, but hotels typically are just not as fun to stay in. Like they're just not, because it's harder to meet people. Usually couples stay at hotels, and hotels aren't exactly a party spot. A lot of hostels can literally be party spots. I've checked into some hostels, and the hostel was the party, like for real. Like it wasn't like we left the hostel, like we just partied at the hostel. And you know, you're there, you're meeting all sorts of cool people from around the world, and it's just you're talking about all different things and politics and this and that, and it's just so much fun, so much fun. Staying connected abroad is a really big deal. We live in the information age, and everybody is on a phone, on a computer, on a tablet. We're all connected. So when you leave the country, you want to stay connected. You can easily just use Wi-Fi at, you know, the airport or at the hostel or the hotel or the restaurant you go to. Or you can just get a SIM card. There's a lot of different ways you can stay connected. Myself, I have T-Mobile. If you have T-Mobile, you might want to check your plan, but T-Mobile offers I think it's like 2 GB speeds for 120 countries or 110 countries around the world. Something you might want to check out if you already have T-Mobile. You know, you already basically have international data, and with international data you can use apps like Skype to call people back in the US, or you can use apps like WhatsApp to contact people in the US. So this is a thing that you can definitely use. WhatsApp is extremely popular outside the US. When I'm back in San Francisco, I never use WhatsApp, but as soon as I leave the US, WhatsApp is like the most used app that I use, because I just use it to communicate with people all the time. Now, my favorite way to stay connected with people when I'm traveling abroad is to bring an unlocked iPhone. Bring an unlocked iPhone or an unlocked phone in general. That way, when you arrive to the new country that you're in, you can just purchase a SIM card and just put that SIM card in your phone, and you can have fast internet. Now, when you use the T-Mobile internet, it works, but it works like very slow. It's 2G speeds. And with a SIM card, I can get, 4G speeds, which is like double the speed. With my unlocked iPhone, I usually, buy a SIM card, and then I will tether to my other iPhone and have my T-Mobile iPhone usually on airplane mode the whole time. And this way, I'll just use both iPhones, usually my main iPhone, the American iPhone. I'll use that one on airplane mode, but it's being tethered to the other iPhone. And this is how I like make calls. I'm not addicted to uploading YouTube videos and being an internet whore. You don't have to go through that whole process, but yeah, I thought I would just share that anyway. Now in this video could literally go on and on and on. I can sit here for like the next week and just talk about like things, but I basically want to cover like a handful of the basics, cover some of the things that people really just don't talk about as much. And if you're out there and you want to travel, look, guys, I'm gonna tell you, like, do it, because when I first started traveling, it was like the most amazing thing I did. Like, it changed my life. It made my life better, honestly. Like, even when I go back to the U.S., I'm so excited. Like, I'm so happy just to see, like, just stuff in the U.S. Like, like, once you see so much around the world, like, you come back home and you just appreciate home so much more. You appreciate everything so much more. You see what people have, and you see how happy they are, and you see what people don't have, and you see how happy they are with the things that they don't even have, And it just makes you so happy. And I want more Americans to travel, yo, because we have a very strong passport, yo. We do, and very few people use it. Like, very few people from the U.S. leave and go explore. Yeah, so guys, get a passport and go travel. And I'm gonna wrap this video up because this video is going long. But anyway, like, comment, subscribe. Hopefully you guys learned something from this video. Hopefully I wasn't just talking to myself for all this time. But anyway, thanks a lot for watching. Peace out.